Morning, morning, afternoon. Sorry, every time.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good, good.
Gertrude, can you hear okay?
Yes, I can hear okay. Just need
Ah,
to check. Hi.
that's so nice
Uh,
to see you.
Good to see you as well. I just need to make sure my boys are out of the house so that they don't make any noise.
Cool.
Otherwise, it might be picked by the
Camp.
recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't stress too much. And we do only have like 1 minute. We've got such a short amount of time on these Zoom schedules. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Oh, there we go. All right. Just 2 seconds.
No problem. Nico, is Nelson there?
He's still trying to join.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I can go ahead and get people joining.
Yeah, I think so. Let's do that. Hi, Nelson. Can you hear okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Okay, awesome. And Nelson, if you can turn on your camera, that would be great so that people can see you when you're talking. Hi, Heather. Hi, John. How's everybody?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Jen. Hello, everybody.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Nico.
I see we've
Hey,
got
Nish, how you doing?
we've got Caroline Sealing, which is really, really nice. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
It's her security tape. So funny. How are we doing, Nico? Is that pretty much everyone? Or are we still waiting for a couple people?
Well, I think we can start.
Okay.
We're 3 minutes into it now.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone to our latest talk from the Good Food Festival Talk series. Today we're going to be hearing from Gertrude Pswarayi-Jabson from the Zimbabwe Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, or PELUM, organization, and Nelson Mudzingwa from the Zimbabwe Smallholder Organic Farmers Forum about the local seed systems, and traditional agriculture, their adaptability, resilience, and strength. Gertrude and Nelson, thank you so much for being with us. A couple of quick housekeeping guides for you all today. If you aren't speaking, go ahead and have your mic muted. But if there's something you'd like to ask, please do just either raise your hand, put it in the chat, or just unmute yourself and jump right in, that's fine. So turning to you, Gertrude and Nelson, we just want to kick off by asking you to give us a bit of a snapshot of the local seed and agriculture systems as they are right now in Zimbabwe, especially given the dominance, as we know, of monocultures of introduced crops, not just in Zim, but around the world. Maybe share your views on how things are looking and where things stand at the moment. Maybe Gertrude, start with you.
Thank you very much. So to give a quick snapshot, I would say that the local seed system are largely not recognized by communities as well as many of the policymakers. What we have also noted is that there is great potential in drawing from the seed systems because of their diversity, the diversity that they hold, the knowledge that is within the system. But because this is not given prominence or priority in discussions and in policy making, this is not taken into cognizance, particularly in planning and in policy. Perhaps I can also leave it to Nelson to join in.
Nelson. Oh, have we lost him? Oh no. I think maybe we did lose him.
He's trying to come back.
He's trying to come back. That's really important, I think, and we'll leave it for Nelson to chime in a little bit when he's back on with us. But I think that's so important, what you're highlighting around just a lack of sort of policy environment. So there's a downplaying, but also not a lot of sort of rich policy that could help support local seed and agriculture systems, is what I'm hearing you say. Maybe while we're, oh, there's Nelson. Nelson, we were just talking about sort of giving, Gertrude gave us her take on kind of where things stand right now in terms of local seed and agriculture systems in Zim. Could you give us your insights?
Yes, from the farmer's point of view, the first point is that there is quite a lot of work that is going on the ground. Farmers are producing their seeds. Farmers are growing food out of their seeds. Farmers are confident that these are the only seeds that can defend them in the event of this climate crisis that we are always facing season after season. But there is that slowness in terms of the policy towards addressing what exactly farmers are doing and trying to create an environment that can support the farmers.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's what I'm hearing loud and clear, is that the policy environment is also what's lacking. How do you each see this, you know, sort of these conditions affecting the health and stability of agriculture production in Zimbabwe and the health of our planet overall? I mean, it's not a unique situation to Zim. And just on a quick note, Nelson, if you can switch on your camera, that would be great. We'd love to see your face. But yeah, how do you see this affecting sort of the health of the ecosystem overall? Go ahead, Gertrude.
I would say for a start, there is, when you look at communities, there is this lack of confidence in what farmers are able to do. That is to keep seeds, to grow seeds, to save them, and also to multiply them, and even trade these seeds. And what we are seeing is that because of this lack of recognition and confidence in what farmers can do, we are seeing that there is the proliferation of corporates who are dominating the seed industry. You find that even farmers, for them to be seen as people who are able to produce seed for agricultural purposes, their role is undermined. But the fact is that farmers have always been breeders. They have always been working with seed, producing diversity, and even serving it. And we see this with the traditional knowledge that comes in with our grandmothers and grandfathers in the rural areas. But all this knowledge is being undermined because of the dominance of the corporate sector, particularly the seed industry, which comes into to say farmers do not have the knowledge, they do not have the expertise, and this particularly affects the confidence that farmers have. Over to you, Nelson.
Nelson, you need to unmute your mic.
It is all about recognizing what the farmers are doing, because if you look at it, you can see that these processes are going parallel. What the seed breeders are saying and what they are concentrating on is not what the farmers believe. Though farmers can use it, but they use it where they do not have enough of what they always grow. So these two processes going parallel is what actually is leading to that lack of recognition of the farmers' varieties, because there's no one who is paying attention to what the farmers are doing. In fact, the whole process is undermining what farmers produce for their nutrition, what farmers produce for their culture, and what farmers produce for what they believe is what is attached to their livelihoods. That is what we are doing on the ground as farmers. But that space is not just being recognized, because business is after business. It's not about what we eat, and it's treating us as second class in terms of seed production is concerned.
Exactly.
I just want to add in.
Go ahead, Gertrude, yeah.
Yes, I just want to add into what Nelson is saying, is that when you look at the traditional seed system, it takes into account the production which is in line with nature. So when farmers are producing this diversity of seed, they are doing it in a system that takes account of the value of life. So they take care of the soils, they take care of the rivers, they also take care of each other. There's this community cohesion that comes with the seed. So it's not just about seed, which the corporates look as a commodity, but for farmers, this is a source of life. They treat seed in a different way. They respect seed because for them, seed is alive. It's not a commodity that is meant to be traded and people make income out of it. It is the way of bringing communities together, and this adds value to their rituals, to their traditions, and it's incorporated in a much complex system that allows people to interact with each other. They interact with nature, where they go and do offerings, do their rituals on the seed planting, seed offerings. They also have connections with where the seed is grown. They also have connection with how they eat the food that's made out of this seed. So there is a wealth of knowledge that comes with seed. So seed is not just about planting, it's also about connecting with who you are as a people, who you are, and also connecting about the broader community, the environment in which we stay. This is where we talk about traditional seed as a panacea to curbing the problem of climate change.
I think those are really, really important points to make. And our next question is about sort of the concept and principles of seed sovereignty and, you know, what it kind of means. And I think you've really started unpacking that for us a little bit, and what it means to have sovereignty over one's sort of those kernels of biodiversity and why that's so important. John is also asking on the chat whether, you know, you've kind of highlighted for us the difference between sort of corporate seed holders and corporate agricultural forces as versus or as compared to very grassroots, very community driven systems. Is there also a factor there of different crop types? I would imagine that, you know, things like maize, soy, wheat, et cetera, are more closely aligned to those more corporate channels. Is that something that you see playing out, and maybe characterize that for us a little bit, either Nelson or Gertrude? Gertrude, go ahead. Oh, Nelson, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry,
That's
if
okay.
I would start on seed sovereignty. Here we are talking about access. Yeah, if you have access, which that has to continue for quite some time, and then you have control. No one has to determine exactly what I should grow. It's myself and my family that are responsible to determining what we should grow every season, because that is the nutrition that we require. And we also look at production itself. You know, how is it going to be produced? Am I not going to be an enemy to both the water and soil as I'm going into production? Because I would need these resources to be with me always when I'm going onto the farm. I need to create an environment where water can survive. And I need to create an environment where my soils can continue to sustain my production, at the same time sustaining the future generations. So if you go back again, when you talk about seed sovereignty, you are saying that it has to be with the farmer, and it's that diversity that we require always on the farm that we will want to keep, because it is its importance in the ecosystem. When all plants are growing in a healthy environment, there is that stability that we require, and this is what we believe would reduce the effects of climate change that is actually affecting. So as we are going into production, we would want to look at seed, and we would want to look at the production that we are using as key important pillars for us to achieve food sovereignty at the end of it. Yeah, where even if we look at Zimbabwe itself and the diversity that is within the communities that we are surviving, rebuilding it on, and actually making that production homegrown and focusing on utilization of those resources that are from the people, right? Which is very much different to what industry thinks, because industry, the major focus of industry is business. They want to make money. They want to use research and development to promote what they want to do. And that is all about business and marketing of seeds, varieties. And those seed varieties, the target is they would want to replace what the farmers have, so that they create a very big market share at the end of it, and also limit the numbers and the nutrition or the diversity and the diets that people would want to eat every day. So that kind of a substitute is what the farmers always are fighting against, as they always continue with their practices. And if you go down into the rural areas, you'll see farmers still having something to eat, but yet we are talking of a drought that is affected. So what are those methods that the farmers are doing on the ground that is helping them to continue to practice what they are doing, and what is that passion, which is the driving force behind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you talk of sovereignty, you are talking about the power to make decisions and have authority or full control on what I grow and what I eat. But that sovereignty has been taken away by industry, which mainly promotes maize. So if you look at the context of Zimbabwe, maize is seen as the only crop that can solve food insecurity in Zimbabwe. But I believe that's not an accurate way of seeing food security as a whole. And when you look at the food system, and particularly the seed system, these traditional seed systems, you'd actually see that they take into cognizance issues of diversity. So you have your legumes, you have your millets, the different types of varieties that come under millets, the pearl millets, the finger millets, your legumes. I remember going to Chimanimani for a seed fair, and one farmer exhibiting more than 15 diversity of just legumes. So you see the diversity that comes when farmers are actually saving and exchanging seed, which is quite different when the focus is only on maize. And why I say maize has colonized our food system is that because it's being produced at an industrial scale, the practices of farming that also come in to produce this maize are also embedded in the package of industrial agriculture, which is use of fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, and these kill our soils, as opposed to what farmers are practicing when they are keeping a diversity of seed. They are using mulching, they are using interaction with other elements, but they are also not just looking at seed as the domesticated seed that we use for consumption. They're also incorporating seed from the wilderness. So you think about your wild vegetables, your mushrooms, which you go and pick in the forest. You also think about amatimbi, the mopani worms. So food and seed is much diverse in the context of African cosmology. And when we talk about seed sovereignty, we are saying farmers should be having the right to grow what they want to produce. They should be having full authority in what they are growing as farmers without being determined either by policy or influenced by corporates to say farmers cannot breed or farmers cannot grow such types of foods. So in essence, when you talk about sovereignty, you're talking about giving farmers the full right to do the breeding, to also grow what they eat, and also to share amongst themselves as farmers to continue perpetuating the dynamics and the diversity that you find in the seed system.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like also that the industrial seed system interrupts that process and sort of supplants it. Maria has made a really good comment in the chat about the fact that commercial monocropping systems have really compromised on nutritional and food security as a whole. And I think Gertrude was specifically speaking to that as well. I think so many good points are coming out, especially touching on the sort of stability of not just the seed, what seed systems do for biodiversity, but also our dietary diversity. And earlier in the talk series, we've had a chance to hear stories from farmers who shared their deep knowledge on traditional farming practices that are responsive to issues we face now with climate change. Can you guys talk a little bit about these practices which are termed traditional, but in fact, don't they actually hold the key to some of the challenges that we're facing today? I know you've touched on it, but I'd really like to hear you speak to that.
So the common word that now we are beginning to hear is the term agroecology, which has principles that are in line with the harmony that we find in nature. So with agroecology comes issues to do with diversity. So these are some of the principles that come under agroecology: issues to do with diversity, issues to do with synergies, issues to do with relationships, issues to do with governance of how these seeds are governed in a much complex ecosystem. So when we talk about the traditional farming systems, we are really saying these are farming systems that were developed in sync with relationships with nature. So our forefathers understood how nature works through observing, through spending time in nature, and through creating these deep relationships where they knew what to plant at what particular time with the seasons. They would even observe insects, they observe the skies, they observe the sun, they observe the moon, and all this comes with a deep relationship that comes with observation. So we are saying, when we are talking about traditional farming systems, these are systems that have been developed for thousands of years. When our forefathers started to domesticate these crops, they were doing it in a way that was in harmony with nature. So when they planted their crops, they made sure that they are doing it in such a way that they did not disturb the natural order. The idea was to always be in sync and not to destroy life. But now when you look at the industrial farming practices, the objective is to make profit at whatever cost. So if I plant my field and put maize, I can bring in herbicides, I can bring in pesticide, and forget that also we have birds, we have insects that come and survive in this complex ecosystem, and they need to live. But when humans are only thinking about producing maize, they disregard other forms of life. But this is how different the industrial agriculture and traditional farming systems are, in that traditional farming systems took into cognizance the importance of other life forms and valued them and said, how do we as human beings coexist with all these life forms around us, because they form who we are. When we destroy nature, we destroy ourselves. When you destroy the bees, the insects, we are also destroying ourselves. But those aspects are not given prominence when you look at industrial agriculture. Oh. Perhaps Nelson can also add.
It would be great to hear. Oh, sorry, Nelson, go ahead. I was just gonna sort of pivot a little bit, but feel free to contribute on that particular point. Okay. I was just going to say, we've talked a lot about the things that are undermining local seed systems and traditional agricultural practices, these dominant forces. But I'd love to hear from each of you what, what are the things that we could look forward to that would positively support these practices and these systems. Nelson, maybe we start with you. Don't forget to unmute.
Yeah, most important is living with water. You know, what we are seeing today is that water is actually running away from us because we don't like it. We only want to use it, but we have not created that relationship, good relationship with water. We throw it away when we've finished our business. Yeah, we don't just take care of it. And we don't create an environment where water is actually surviving, right? Which is one of the practices that our forefathers were doing long before, that to keep biodiversity intact so that water is able to survive within that biological diversity. Otherwise, water staying in the soil, because water is not supposed to fight with the soil like what we're seeing today. If you go in many of our rural areas, you find a lot of gullies have developed. Why that coming up is as a result of water that is not directed to safe places where it can seep into the soil. So these are some of the practices that our parents used to do. But when we came in with conventional agriculture, you realized that because we wanted to use our machinery, we had to clear vast pieces of land and leave it just bare. You can imagine if you pour water in a bald head and pouring water in a near head with very good, you can see the difference. In a bald head, water will just dry quickly, and that is what is happening. Water is just drying right easily because it is not finding a conducive environment for it to survive. A lot of it is going via evaporation, via much of it also just turning into vapor and going away from us, leaving us with drier regions, which is what is affecting us as we approaching the bad seasons. The fundamental issue that we need to address is to practice good behavior with water. Then the second element is to understand that soil is a very living resource that we have to take care of it for it to be able to take care of us. If we don't take care of soil, if we don't give it food, not give us food. And soil is not supposed to eat poisons, like you can imagine yourself feeding yourself maybe with a teaspoon of just a fertilizer. Can you stay for 3 months? But you expect a plant to survive for that much. So those are some of the methods.
Nice. And we're seeing a lot of great comments on the chat. You know, that Gertrude, what you were saying about traditional practices is very right, but also good to point out that he says that the agroecology is based on the latest biological sciences, so it's actually very modern. We know now know biodiversity is key to everything in natural systems, which I think is really important. That, you know, we may see these are things that people have known from ancient times, but they're also sort of being, you know, accepted by modern science now as well, as like, oh yeah, maybe specialization wasn't the right way forward. And a good comment from Edward: do farmers believe that they're food secure when they have all the other crop varieties and no maize? And how can we change that mindset? I thought that was very interesting. Maria says, I think we need to be more effective in our natural resource management, as the current practices are disrupting the natural ecosystems, just as Nelson was saying. And John is very, very pro Nelson's comments about it's all about water. Water is magic, and we should catch it and use every drop and reuse. Very well said, Nelson. Gertrude, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we could what could be done to positively support these traditional approaches that are actually, as John says, very modern.
I feel people are beginning to wake up. Yes, we might be saying there are challenges, but I feel that there is an awakening that's happening at individual level and at national level as well. We are beginning to have people receptive to the traditional practices in agroecology. And I feel that there are key things that we need to be supporting. That is the revival of traditional seed systems, which involves the growing of seed, saving of seed, and exchange of seed among farmers. This is the key to everything. If we develop a system and strengthen the system to allow farmers to continuously grow seed, to multiply the diversity that they have within their households, and also to allow the exchange to take place, and even farmers to begin to sell seed amongst themselves, we are beginning to address the problem of food insecurity, climate change, and other multiple crises that we face as a nation. I also think that people are beginning to also wake up to practicing agroecology. So people are beginning to mulch, They are keeping diverse animals. They're beginning to have household seeds. They are exchanging knowledge. Many things are happening. I know within the PELUM network, we have communities that are working to promote water harvesting, like what Nelson has been sharing. People who are working together to learn a different way of working with livestock. Other communities are working together to see how seed is revived. So there is an awakening that's happening, but this awakening is still dotted throughout the country. And there's need to bring all these forces together so that there is a collective voice that stimulates a wider awakening in many people in the country. And I also strongly believe that when we begin to address the issue of language, we begin to change the narrative. So for instance, when we relate to seed, are we treating it as a resource or a life form? When we talk about water, when we talk about land, is land a resource or it's another form of life that we need to respect? So when we change the way we talk, the language, it begins to change the conversation and how people relate to the more than human world, which is the seed, the rivers, the oceans, the forest, and many other life forms that we don't see as playing a role in keeping our ecosystem functional. So those are the few things that I can share.
That's really great. Yeah, very good points. I think well, we're seeing some more comments come through on the chat, but let's open it up for everyone. Maria just made the really good point that, you know, when we've got siltation and people putting up buildings in wetland areas, that it's disturbing the natural aquifers that we have and sort of limiting our ability to do what Nelson is saying, which is conserve and use every drop and create a conducive environment for saving and using water. The people are establishing solar irrigation all over the place, but not doing it using a systems approach. So even when, you know, we're trying to do something in a sustainable way using solar technology, it needs to still be sort of planned out, is what I'm hearing her say. Edward is saying, great work coming from farmers who have embraced the idea of putting water into the soil through dead level contours and other water harvesting practices. So that's more of a systems approach and landscape approach. This is coming against a backdrop of farmers who were taught to direct water from fields into water chain. So like that deep knowledge really coming to the fore. Let's open it up to everyone. If you've got a question, you can either raise your hand or just simply unmute yourself. Feel free to dive in. We've got about just under 7 minutes left. Anybody want to dive in? We've had some good questions on the chat. I see Nick is grinning like he has a question or comment. Heather is pretending that she can't speak.
Perhaps as we are waiting for people to ask questions or frame them correctly, there's a question which was raised in the chat box about farmers, whether they can really think of them being food secure when maize is out of the picture.
Right.
I feel that the conversation needs to get to a deeper level where we need to decolonize the thinking that to say we are food secure means you have maize. I remember a story where someone was telling me that a couple came looking for food and they were told to pick fruits in the garden. And they left the place saying, they didn't give us food, they gave us fruits. So for them, food was maize. So if we begin to reimagine how we define food, we begin to see that we are food secure. If we start to know what we were, or if we remember what we used to eat long back, those things that we call weeds in our backyards, growing at the back of our yards, it's food. I know at my place, I have amaranthus growing, blackjack, dandelion, but most people think these are weeds. But if we begin to think or redefine what we call food, we'll begin to even start saving those seeds for blackjack, seeds for amaranthus, and we plant them and share with others so that we begin to see ourselves as food secure. So to answer your question, I think it was Edward who asked the question, yes, farmers can begin to see themselves as being food secure if they are decolonize that food security is all about maize. Thank you.
I think that's so apt. And John, right on the heels of that is sort of unpacking a new layer of how and why did maize come to be seen as food, as the staple? What lies behind it? He's wondering. Either Nelson or Gertrude?
It's always important to understand the story of origin, because that helps us to understand where the problem started. So in the early 50s or 60s, I remember reading a research that was done by Page, where they were talking about how the how farming system was changed in Zimbabwe. So the introduction of maize was really as a result of introducing the new modern farming systems that were coming from the West, and coming to replace the barbaric, in quotes, the barbaric way of practicing agriculture, which were not rooted in scientific knowledge. So maize really came in to replace a system that was well developed with the understanding of the agricultural system in Zimbabwe, but mainly it was also coming in to introduce a new farming system that brought with it the chemicals and the hybrid seed and the fertilizers. So it's the colonization of the African farming system that came as a result of wanting to modernize the African way of farming, and basically replacing what was in place, which was developed for thousands of years, which was working perfectly, and replacing it with a modern way of agriculture that brought about the production of maize that would be then extracted and exported to other countries to feed animals, really. So maize, if I look at it, is not actually a crop that was developed to feed people, but actually to feed a growing industrial system that needed to cater for the production of livestock feed.
Yeah, that's powerful. And it was just the cheapest form of carbohydrate that they could produce at commercial scale. Yeah, that's heavy duty. Guys, we have 2 minutes left. It always goes from 2 minutes to 1 minute. So if anybody has any final comments or questions, now would be the time. Nelson, did you want to add anything right here at the end? Nope, I see a head shake.
I'm okay.
Well, with that, yeah, Caroline, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question representing all the visitors to our food and seed festival every year. A lot of them obviously are very disappointed that this year we're not coming together physically, and they were wondering where they were going to get their seed this year. And I was wondering if you have any sort of immediate feedback or solutions or for them.
Just very quickly then, go ahead.
So
we are currently organizing seed and food fairs. In the central cluster, we had one, yeah. So we, at those occasions, functions, I think, seed could be very available to the farmers, but not in larger quantities like what we did last year. Smaller quantities, 10 kg and below. I think those you can find from the farmers.
Okay. Well, with that said, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. And it was a great discussion. I really enjoyed all the insights that we got, not just from our speakers. Thanks so much to Gertrude and to Nelson, but also from all of you. Really great points all around, really interesting. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.
bye.
See you.
Bye.